think I signed up for that part.
Oh dear.
That's all right. I'm kidding.
Alright, so we're at 10:28, 29. You can start whenever.
I can start now?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just going to get an eye
Wait,
from
hold on just a second.
Yeah, sure. I want to wait for Greg too.
He usually gives me the high sign at a minute before. I don't know. Maybe he lost track of time. Okay.
He might be coming up here. I don't know.
That's my knees. Good morning and welcome to those of you who are joining us virtually and those who are present. And it's so good to see so many people in the pews. I'm Diane Kennedy. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I will be serving as the worship associate for today's service. Together with Sarah Cannon, our Director of Children and Community Programming, pronouns she, her, and hers, and Rev Katie, our Ministerial Candidate, and Elizabeth Valencia, our Intern Minister, whose pronouns are she, Ella. We are your worship team here this morning.
If you are visiting us this morning, we are glad you are here with us. We invite you and everyone present, we think you are probably both, to fill out one of our bright green connection cards at the ends of the pews, if you'd be so good as to put the dates on those as well. Thank you very much. This card helps us know how best to stay connected and support you on life's journey. We welcome you and invite you to bring with you this morning your whole self as you join us in worship. But first, a few quick announcements. I hope that you will make your way forward during or after the service down these side aisles here to work on the banners that we're going to be spending time on all week during cottage meetings. As we move through today's service, please consider your personal values. What do you hold most important? Kindness? Relationships? Something else? Consider the values that you feel we as a congregation live into, and those that you feel the world is calling all of us to live into. There are 3 columns on each banner for you to write those values in under the corresponding area. And kids, in case you are wondering, because I've already been asked, you are explicitly invited to participate in this activity. Yes, you can. Also, because we all were so overjoyed to be in worship this morning, there are no adults in the nursery. So please bring your small selves as well as your whole selves. If you have any questions about being in service with a young child, we have pew cards in the pews as well, and you're welcome to join us up front on the quilts or to step out and go to the nursery on your own if that's something that you feel called to do. Thank you.
Next week, after service on Sunday, we will be having a congregational meeting. That meeting will be to vote on our ministerial candidate. And then again on the following Sunday, we will have another congregational meeting. And that's our annual meeting where we elect officers and approve the budget. So it's important to participate in both of those, either in person or virtually, and we will have a little more on that later. Today is a very special day. To begin with, it's Mother's Day, and I'm a mother. But besides that, it's a very special service because we're kicking off candidating week. We've met our candidate through the search committee, through her letter, and her videos. And now here she is in person. Now I have more to say. Reverend Katie Romano Griffin currently serves a large congregation in the DC metro area. She and her colleague, Abhi Janamanshi, and I hope I didn't butcher that, are the first BIPOC ministry team to serve a large congregation in our faith. And besides that, she serves in the UUA leadership as part of the Ministerial Fellowship Committee. She's co-authored a book on classism in Unitarian Universalism. She is on the Commission on Appraisal. She serves as a Civil Air Patrol chaplain and has special training in emergency trauma and disaster chaplaincy. She hails from a very loving, incredibly boisterous, multiracial family. She identifies culturally as Argentine and Italian, though she's also of Middle Eastern and African descent. She grew up with her mother's family speaking Argentine Spanish, Italian, and English, mostly at the same time. I am so happy and honored to be up here this morning and introducing her. Now, it's going to be very important for all of us to be present either here in person or on Zoom at 11:30 next Sunday when we have our vote. You will be able to vote in person, you will be able to vote online, you will be able to text. We have all kinds of ways to count votes. We will need at least 82 voting members to have a quorum. So it's very important that if you possibly can participate, you do. And you also might want to keep in mind that it's the UUA recommendation that a 90% positive vote is what's recommended for a ministerial candidate to accept a calling. So now, here's Katie.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you so much, Diane. Buenos dias. Good morning.
Good morning.
It is a joy to finally be with you at the front of the sanctuary. I've been seeing things from the camera's view since summer. So it's great to be here in front of you. And I really want to thank you for taking the risk to be here on Mother's Day. Wow. And with that, I want to take a moment to honor the complexity of this day. I wish a happy Mother's Day to those of you who are celebrating. And I also, as we meet you with joy and anticipation that you may be holding for wonderful Sunday meals, I know that some of us might be feeling the loss of a loved one, or we might be feeling rushed or overwhelmed. Some of us share mothering energy and cannot or will not be parents for many reasons, including infertility and the loss of a child. Some of us have two adults in our families and neither is a mom, or we have one adult and they're a parent, or they go by dad, or they go by something else. And this day can be confusing for us, or a time where we feel a little left out. In this moment of our shared journey, may you feel witnessed and honored wherever you are on your journey, and may you remember that whether you are here for the first time or the thousandth, whomever you are, whomever you love, whatever your ability, gender, beliefs, political affiliation, or documentation status, you are welcome here in this incredible, loving, beloved community of All Souls. Los invito a tomar un respiro a medida que entramos en este momento juntos en la presencia de lo que cada uno considera santo y sagrado. Translation coming.
She caught me off guard. I invite you to take a breath as we enter into this moment together in the presence of what we each call holy and sacred.
Comenzamos nuestro tiempo junto con una versión adaptada de un verso de apertura por el reverendo Fuldgence Ndagijamanna.
Adapted version of an opening verse by the Reverend Fuldgence Ndagijamanna.
Cuando los extraños se encuentran, surgen infinitas posibilidades, nuevas experiencias, nuevas maneras de entender y nuevas formas de acción.
When strangers meet, endless possibilities emerge, new experiences, new ways of understanding, and new ways of taking action.
Cuando los extraños se encuentran, cada una presta especial atención al otro.
When strangers meet, each pays special attention to the other.
Cada uno está llamado a servir algo más grande que una sola persona.
Each is called to serve something larger than a single person.
Hoy, esta mañana, comencemos nuestro tiempo junto con la apertura, la voluntad de crecer, una vasta curiosidad y un propósito común.
Today, this morning, let us begin our time together with openness, willingness to grow, rich curiosity, and a common purpose. May what we name as holy guide us all in today's journeys and always.
Que así sea. Amén y bendiciones.
May
it
Be so. Amen.
And
Blessed
blessed be.
At this time, Cameron, will you come and join me? The ritual of lighting our chalice reminds us to continually renew our promise to live into our covenant, to put love in action, and to live out the community of love and justice we aim to be. Please rise in body or spirit as we say these adapted chalice lighting words from James via Blake, the same words we have spoken since 1903. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. To dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. This is our covenant. That was perfect.
Riz, if you feel called to in body or spirit, as we sing together our hymn number 307, "The Human Touch Can Light the Flame." This is going to be a new one for us, but the choir is here.
One morning in May, on the way to school, Wanda noticed a bush growing in the empty corner lot. Wanda was surprised that she hadn't noticed it before, but there it was, bare and thorny, and Wanda, who loved beautiful things, felt her heart beat faster.
A rose bush, my very own rose bush.
Now, the rose bush didn't really belong to Wanda, but since nobody seemed to own the lot, or the heaps of junk that were piled there, she decided she would care for this bush and make it her own. All during school, she thought about her rose bush. During art, she drew pictures of what it would look like in bloom. During science, she asked so many questions about how to take care of it that finally her teacher said she really must stop asking questions about roses and start thinking about electricity, which is what the lesson was about. After school, Wanda hurried to her rose bush. It was still bare and thorny. Maybe it needs more sun, thought Wanda. So she put down her school bag and began taking more of the trash out to the curb. Once I get this trash out of here, nothing will block the sun from getting to my rose bush, Wanda thought. Now, Mrs. Claudel was on her way home from work, saw Wanda trying to drag an old door, and stopped to help.
Cleaning up the neighborhood, are you, Wanda?
Not just clean, Mr. Cladell. I'm getting rid of this trash so my rose bush will get more air.
A rose bush? Here? I don't know much about gardening, Wanda, but I don't think that's a rose bush.
Sure it is. In a few weeks, this lot will be filled with the sweetest smelling roses you ever saw.
She thanked Miss Claudel for her help and went off to drag away some more trash. Miss Claudel shook her head.
If that's a rose bush, then I'm the Queen of France.
The next week, when the rosebush still wasn't blooming, Wanda talked to her school librarian, Mrs. Jones.
I need some books about getting roses to bloom.
Oh, do you have a rose bush, Wanda?
Yes, but it doesn't have flowers yet, and I know it has enough sun.
Does it have enough water?
Water, of course, that will make it bloom.
That afternoon, she hurried to the rosebush. It was still bare and thorny. She looked at the dry ground and smiled.
Don't worry, little bush. I'll get you some water, then you'll be able to grow flowers.
Wanda went to the butcher shop across the street.
Mr. Sanchez, would you please give me some water for my rose bush?
Rosebush, is that what I see you taking care of and talking to every day out there? Are you sure that's a rosebush, Wanda?
Oh, yes, I'm sure. But it can't bloom because it needs water.
So Mr. Sanchez gave her water in a plastic bucket. I hope that really is a rosebush, Wanda.
You'll see in a few weeks this lot will be full of roses.
As Wanda carried the water to her rosebush, Mr. Sanchez muttered, "In a few weeks, that thorn bush will still be a thorn bush." Every day, Wanda ran to her rosebush after school, but every day it was still bare and thorny. She watered it and sang to it and checked its bare branches for roses. Miss Claudel, on her way home from work, stopped to see if there were any roses yet. When Wanda went to the library at school, Mrs. Jones asked if there were any roses yet. And every day, when Wanda went to the butcher shop for water, Mr. Sanchez asked if there were any roses yet. To each person, Wanda would answer the same thing.
Just wait. Pretty soon this whole lot will be filled with roses.
And then, one day in June, Wanda had an idea. Looking at the thorny bush, she said,
If my rose bush won't give me roses, I'll just have to give roses to my rose bush.
And when she saw Ms. Claudel, Mrs. Jones, and Mr. Sanchez, she gave each of them an invitation that said,
Please come for tea and muffins in Wanda's Rose Garden, Saturday morning at 9.
Oh no, she worked so hard. There must be something I can do.
"Oh, darn. Is she still expecting to get roses from that bush?"
Oh, good, said Mrs. Jones, who had only heard about the bush from Wanda and hadn't seen it for herself. "And I'll bring the muffins."
Huzzah, we love people who bring muffins. The night before the tea party, everything was very busy. And the next morning at 9, everyone was surprised to see that Wanda's rosebush was covered with roses, paper roses that Wanda had made herself and carefully tied to each bare, thorny branch. But more surprising yet, everyone who came to the party had brought along a rosebush to plant near Wanda's, except Mrs. Jones, who had brought delicious blueberry muffins. After they had eaten their muffins and drunk their tea, they all got busy planting rose bushes. Miss Claudel dug the holes. Wanda held the bushes in place, while Mrs. Jones filled in around the roots with soil. And Mr. Sanchez brought water from his shop and watered them all thoroughly. When the work was finished, Miss Claudel said,
Wanda, this is going to be a rose garden fit for a king.
"Or for a queen," said Mrs. Jones.
and later that summer, the whole lot was filled with the biggest, most beautiful, sweetest smelling roses that anyone had ever seen, just as Wanda always said it would be. The end.
Please rise in body or spirit as we sing hymn number 346, Come Sing a Song with Me.
Good morning again, and happy Mother's Day. Typically, we would be having a Mother's Day service, and the sermon would be about mothers. But today's going to be a little different. Today, Rev Katie Romano Griffin is conducting our service as a candidate to be our minister here at All Souls. As such, it's important that we hear something that might be a little deeper than a typical Mother's Day service. After all, I was a mother yesterday, I'll be a mother tomorrow. But I'm not going to have many opportunities to hear the possible future of my church. This week, we will all have a chance to get to know Rev Katie and to begin to understand how we might fit together as minister and congregation. It's my understanding that many people come to church these days because they are looking for community. I believe that's particularly true of Unitarian churches and All Souls in particular. For a strong community, individuals must trust each other and their institution. If voting is the linchpin of democracy, calling a minister who reflects our collective values and is able to herd cats is one of the most important actions a congregation and its members can undertake. As we look to a future together, let us consider the wisdom of Rev Katie, both as to mothers and as to her vision for all souls.
Each week, we share in joys and sorrows on Sunday as part of a spiritual practice of community and covenant to live in the spirit of love. When I raise my arms, I invite you to say with me, we hold you in our hearts as we move through today's joys and sorrows litany. As you move through life's ordinary and extraordinary moments, as your spiritual community, we hold you in our hearts.
As you parent in difficult times and wonderful times, we hold you in our hearts.
If you are mourning the loss of a loved one, we
hold you in our hearts. If you live with or care for someone or are someone with grief or chronic pain, we hold you in our hearts.
If you are struggling with illnesses seen or unseen, with mental illness or addictions, we hold you in our hearts.
If you have suffered abuse or injustice, we hold you in our hearts.
If you have a joy in your heart this Mother's Day, we hold you in our hearts.
If you have a difficult relationship with a mother or mothering, if you are mourning the loss of a child or a parent, or struggling with infertility, we hold you in our hearts.
If you are struggling with a range of emotions, rage, fear, confusion, grief, anger, sorrow, or something else related to the recent draft released about Roe v. Wade, know that we are present to you. We hold you in our hearts.
In our All Souls community, we continue to celebrate this Sunday with Sarah Cannon, our DCCP, who was awarded the status as a credentialed religious educator. We hold you in our hearts.
Y'all, that is a really big deal. So let us gather up with a collective breath all of the joys and sorrows that are within this community, in person and online, going forward from this moment and in this present moment. Present to all that exists within this community and the larger global community, knowing that together, when we bear witness to each other with vulnerability and humility, the possibility for hope can grow. So as we go forward from this moment, may we experience sparks of that hope within ourselves, within our families, our communities, and the larger world, and may we shine on. May it be so.
Amen.
Amen, and blessed be.
That was beautiful. This morning, our offertory contributions will go to Coburn Place. Coburn Place empowers survivors of domestic violence in the greater Indianapolis area. It provides safe housing and offers supportive services to lift survivors and their children up so they can soar. It serves everyone, cisgender, transgender, non-binary. Coburn Place provides transitional housing at the flagship building in Midtown Indianapolis on 38th Street, and it also has a community-based housing program. Breaking the cycle of abuse creates stronger people, stronger families, and ultimately stronger communities. To contribute, you can put cash or check into the collection plate, or if online, you can go to allsoulsindy.org, where you will find a link that says Give to All Souls here. And that's beneath the description of today's service. And of course, the other half of the contributions will go to All Souls. Thank you for your generosity in supporting the mission of All Souls and for your continued love for one another and for this world. May we now accept our morning offering.
Thank you so much. That was just beautiful. And y'all, it's Rex's birthday. Rex is singing in the choir today. Happy birthday. There's some more celebrations that we have too. We want to celebrate that yesterday Bruce Russell Jane and Betty Lynch, Gail Henry helped to set up and bless the little free library that is out front. It is stunningly beautiful. Did you see it on the way in? Yeah. Thank you. We have some gratitudes for everyone that made it happen. The Chalice Circle, Crystal Francis, Diane O'Brien. It sounds like you were sponsors, Diane O'Brien? You helped, okay. And we have a thank you to Nasreen, Crystal, Marky Heckley for decorating. Bruce shared that a community mom and her child witnessed it, and they're going to be putting in some books. So isn't that a great way to make a library holy, by putting in books that we can all share? How wonderful. Well, thank you all. We hold you in our hearts. That poem, that song that the choir just shared is from a poem by poet Raynor Maria Rilke, who some of you may be familiar with. Rilke wrote many poems about roses, and this one was translated from French by Clarissa Ackroyd, and it says, with those beautiful words, if you don't speak French like me, what they were saying was, abandon upon abandon, tenderness upon tenderness, your hidden self unceasingly turns inward, a caress, caressing itself and of its own reflection illuminated. Thus you've invented the tale of Narcissus, sated. Now, in Greek mythology, Narcissus was a hunter that fell in love with their own image and missed out on love because of it. But for Rilke, the power of the rose, this simple, beautiful, natural flower, sates that obsession, saves him, and maybe there are some insights that the rose can share with us to save us from a culture that encourages self-absorption. Roses have a long history in Unitarian Universalism. When we perform child dedications and baby blessings, we give roses without the thorns, symbolizing that we as a community will do what we can to protect our child as they grow in this world. And when our youth come of age, we give them a rose with thorns, symbolizing that we have prepared them as best we can for life's challenges, the beauty, the stagnation, and the challenges. Historically, All Souls has used roses to welcome new members, and you've even shared that song that we heard earlier. Maybe that brought back some memories for you. We meet today as strangers in the presence of some familiar gifts: story, song, and bloom. It seems as though the image of the rose can continue to serve as a good reminder of how we can both encounter ourselves more intentionally and more deeply as we encounter each other and others, and we commit to this week of unfolding grace. We even get to create our own roses too. You'll notice some baskets with tissue paper and pipe cleaner floating around. And if you've ever served on a parade committee, you might remember how to make those roses. And we have some expert helpers up here. Nadia and I were conspiring earlier. So there may be some folks who can help out if you haven't made a rose in a while. But just like Rhonda decorated that thorn bush with roses, paper roses, as she was committed to building beloved community, we're going to do that this week too, starting today. I'm finding a lot of inspiration in Wanda's story, because Wanda noticed something special hiding in that lot, something precious that everyone else was overlooking. And in fact, folks were going past it all the time, and junk was accumulating over time. But she realized something special could happen if she just believed enough She was a possibility thinker, an early adapter. And on Wanda's journey, as she was working towards creating that rosebush, she did her research, like all good Unitarian Universalists do. We go to the library, we listen to librarians. Yes. She did all that. She created space and she enrolled the community in ways that were meaningful. And she didn't shame anyone along the journey, did she? She didn't say, well, you think this is a thorn bush? Well, you can't be in my rose garden. No. She invited people to participate in the way that felt good to them while also challenging them to believe that a possibility they might not have entertained before could come into being. And it did. We're going to do some of that this week because you're asking your next minister, which might be me, to really see how amazing you already are. And then help you to build on what's already good about you to create beloved community. We're going to open up some closet doors. We're going to look in some spaces to find those thorn bushes, and we're going to put some roses on them. And we get to start that this week. One of the things you've asked an incoming settled minister to do is help you discover your common purposes. And we're going to start with values. And here's why we're starting with values at All Souls. When I read your congregational record, it was so clear to me that you're already amazing. You have good values. And historically, when I look back on your history, you were growing when you believed in yourselves. When your minister was challenging you, helping you to be in accountable relationship, while also helping you believe in yourselves and connect with the stirring already inside of you to live out your best self, your best nature. So we're going to start with values. We're going to start with understanding what our personal values are, what you think our shared values are here at All Souls, and the values that you think the world needs us to express. And I hope that you'll write on one of these banners this week. And if somebody already uses your word, feel free to use a synonym. Or you can underline that word. You can put stars on it. We don't have glitter, but we do have lots of different colored pens. And this is one of the ways that we're going to take what's already in our heads and in our hearts and start to put it in the physical world where we can all see it and look at it and live in accountability with it. And I have to tell you that when I was researching you, I called a lot of people. And you know what they all said? Oh, All Souls. They are so lovely, and they will always do the right thing. And people said like these same couple of sentences over and over again. It was like you paid them. But I'd learned a bit about you by then, and I know you're too honest for that. So I was really awed by that. And what you need to understand that we are in the middle of a minister shortage in Unitarian Universalism. There are a lot of congregations that won't have ministers. And amidst this environment, you had 9 ministers interested in All Souls. Some congregations had none. You had 9 ministers who see how amazing you are. So whether you call me as your minister or not, I believe even if you do a bonus year, you are going to get an awesome minister. So this week, I'm going to give you all I've got to help you know that. So when we go into May 15th for the vote, you can vote with your conscience and not from a place of fear or lack and worrying if you're going to get a minister or if you deserve good ministry. I want you to go into the 15th knowing that you're going to get good ministry. Maybe it's August 1st, or maybe it's a year from now, but you deserve it. You're going to get it because you're amazing. And we ministers out there, we're noticing. I also want to be clear that the face of ministry is forever changed. And we are going to have to rebuild community. Everyone's in that boat, all of us. We're all figuring out innovative ways to rebuild community. And some of how we're doing that is by getting to know our values and by making a commitment to engage this week with each other, with our values, and really be present with each other from a listening space, knowing that we're going to make mistakes and we're going to say things that maybe aren't perfect, thank goodness, because that means we're going to be human together. How else can we test our values if we're not human together in accountable relationship, right? So that's part of our work this week too, is bringing our whole selves. And if you've seen my roses, bringing our imperfect and our perfect roses too. Something else that's important to understand about Indianapolis and your community, the All Souls community, from my perspective as a minister, is that this is a politically diverse area. Where better to heal the heart of our democracy in this time than the heartland? We are uniquely positioned to do that right here in Indianapolis. You've also asked your new minister to help you create a culture around healthy conflict. We're going to have some conflict this week. Reverend Joel preached a couple of weeks ago about useful conflict. It's going to be a useful conflict. And we have another sacred UU item to guide us in this process of conflict, the donut. The Reverend Dr. Rebecca Savage, she and I were co-teaching a workshop on pastoral care, and she talked about the jelly donut method. Now, I like jelly donuts. Do you like jelly donuts? Sort of, kind of, you know. Translate Boston cream, if you will, if jelly donut isn't your thing. But a jelly donut's great, or Boston cream, if you eat it one bite at a time. You kind of want to keep the inside in. But if you put pressure on one of those donuts, what happens? It splats out sideways. So if you're at coffee hour and you're feeling really anxious and we're not exploring what's inside of us that might be rising as a tension or a stress or an anxiety, that's putting pressure on our jelly donut. And people who all of a sudden are around us are getting hit with jelly and they don't know what's happening. But when we engage covenantally in our conversations, when we are humble and honest about our strengths and our weaknesses and our challenges and the feelings that sometimes we can't even name, we're actually building supports around the donut. This system is going to be under a lot of stress this week. As you consider calling a new member, that is automatic pressure on the donut. There's all kinds of things happening in the world that's already affecting our bodies, our minds, our psyches. That is putting pressure on our donuts. So if you can this week, if you're not already doing it, it's now Mother's Day, so you can plant. You can get out in the garden as a spiritual practice, spend 5 minutes a day grounding yourself in a way that's meaningful for you. Daily spiritual practice is one of the ways that we keep the jelly in the donut. And when we're together in community, we're going to focus on our values. And it's okay to take a break from the room, to breathe into the space and say, whew, I'm having a feeling, I don't know what it is, I can't name it. I'm going to take a minute. And that helps everyone to keep the jelly in their donuts and our collective donut. So let's work on having those donuts one bite at a time. And if you're interested in interacting throughout the week, of course, please come to one of the cottage meetings, but you can also interact asynchronously online through social media, if that's your thing. We have a hashtag. It's #BelievingInAllSouls. So if you create a post about what you're learning, what you're exploring, what is sparking joy in you this week, give it a hashtag and put it out there. On social media, anyone who follows the hashtag is going to see what's happening. There's something else and I'm going to try to wrap this up. I hear that it's very important to stay to an hour. We're going to be a few minutes over, so I'm going to try to wrap this up and summarize for you. But you've also asked your new minister to help you build a more diverse, beloved community. And I serve a congregation that's currently it's in one of the most diverse counties in the nation. And like all UU congregations, even we still struggle with this. And if you read the Widening the Circle of Concern report, you'll see that this is something that Unitarian Universalists struggle with. So hear me clearly. There is nothing wrong with you. You are not alone. What you have is honesty and humility already in your congregational system. And that is something that we can build from, who you already are, to create this world you're dreaming out about from your values. So we'll talk a little bit more about that this week, but I will affirm, one of the members here, bless you, in the questions to me, talked about the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King more than 60 years ago said that this is the most segregated hour, Sunday mornings, and it's true. That remains true in most Protestant denominations. And again, we're not alone in that. And our young people are leaving, yes, that's because not a lot of congregations are making space for our young people to engage in the church so that when they do come of age, there's already a place for them because we've been making a place all along. And this is the key to building a diverse community all the way through, is making sure that there's a place for folks to plug in, because aren't we about belonging? When we center care and we center belonging, it makes a difference. And we are perfectly poised to do this work because we are a free-thinking, non-creedal, theologically and politically diverse, committed to science, saving the planet kind of people, aren't we? We literally, right? Bruce Clear, the Reverend Bruce Clear, basically started the saying, this is where religion and reason meets, which is so important in this time. We're the perfect home for people with all abilities, documentation statuses, multiracial, multigender, LGBTQIA+, and multi-religious families. We are exactly what the growing cohorts of spiritual nuns, that's N-O-N-E-S in case you're wondering, and the spiritual but not religious people are looking for, aren't we? So, again, what are we doing wrong? We just need to work on our edges a little bit, open our hearts, use some tools, building on what already works for us. And I'll have some suggestions. Someone asked if our 7 principles are enough, and I'll invite you to read about the 8th principle, because the 8th principle calls us to be in accountable relationship with each other in a meaningful way, dismantling oppressions within ourselves and with others. And I invite you to learn about this principle with me this week, not as a prescription, because our work as Unitarian Universalists is to engage with this, to be with it, and then we move forward congregationally as a congregational body, deciding on what is the highest value. This is where innovation happens, not when we just go along because a minister or somebody else says that we have to move in this direction. We stay with it. We ask good questions. We get into those spaces looking at conflict, and then from that conflict, that's where the good stuff happens. That's where we get innovation. And I believe that All Souls is a future leadership congregation for the nation. Some of our work has already reached the UUA just in our process of getting here. Conversations and things that grew out of questions the Ministerial Search Committee had actually went to the UUA, and it's going to make some differences in how ministerial agreements are made. So being with conflict in the way that we've already started to engage matters. I'm going to leave you today with these words by the Reverend Dr. Hope Johnson. We are one, a diverse group of proudly kindred spirits, here not by coincidence, but because we choose to journey together. We are active and proactive. We care deeply. We live and love as best we can. We are one, working, eating, laughing, playing, singing, storytelling, sharing, and rejoicing, getting to know each other, taking risks, opening up, questioning, searching, seeking, trying to understand, struggling, making mistakes, paying attention to the stranger, asking questions, listening, living our answers, learning to love ourselves, learning to love our neighbors, apologizing and forgiving with humility, being forgiven through grace, creating the beloved community together. We are one. We are one. Say it with me. We are one. Amen and blessed be. Please rise in body or spirit as we sing together hymn number 108, My Life Flows On, an endless song. And then after the hymn, you may be seated for the postlude. Thank you.